Praise God. All right. So let's read Acts 15:36-41. It says, as we turn there, then after some days, Paul said to Barnabas, let us now go back and visit your brethren in every city where we have preached the word of the Lord and see how they are doing. Now Barnabas was determined to take with him John called Mark, but Paul insisted that they should not take with them the one who had departed from them in Pamphylia and had not gone with them to the work. Then the contention became so sharp that they parted from one another. And so Barnabas took Mark and sailed to Cyprus. But Paul chose Silas and departed, being commended by the brethren to the grace of God. And he went through Syria and Cilicia, strengthening the churches. If that was in your scripture, say it, amen. I want to read this verse now also to show the reconciliation, to show what happened to the end. So we're going to look at this verse in a context where we saw what happened in Acts, but we are going to turn to Timothy chapter 4, 9-11. Timothy chapter 4, 9-11. And it says, be diligent to come to me quickly, for Demas has forsaken me, having loved this present world, and has departed for Thessalonica. Crescens for Galatia, Titus for Dalmatia. Y'all forgive me with those words. Only Luke is with me. Get Mark. Who Mark? The same Mark. And bring him with you, for he is useful for ministry. Who Mark is that? Same Mark, yeah. He's useful for ministry. So we saw the dispute, the beginning, and we saw the end. I just want to draw a few points between, and the lesson is yours. For my introduction, I have here one more verse, people. I know I'm going a lot. One more verse. Ephesians 4:2. Ephesians 4:2. Brother Kerwin, how does Ephesians 4:2 tie in to what you just read? Let's read Ephesians 4:2. With all lowliness and gentleness, with long suffering, bearing with one another in love. Whew. That's a big verse. That's a big verse. That verse is something that we are continually working out. Bearing with one another in love. I have to bear with Sister Kanisha. I have to bear with Brother Jaden. Whoo! Whoo! I want to know, you see teenagers, you're hearing literal, whoo! Whoo! Wow! Wow! But here, patient with others. How do we encourage each other to tolerate and endure the weaknesses of others, giving them space to grow and develop? Now, first to begin, this is for me. This is for me first because I need this. And I believe that as children develop, I need this more and more and more and more. Because, whoo, first thing I had to learn is not about my wants. It's about their needs. I'm going to pick on Jaden. He didn't even know this. I want so much for Jaden. I want so much for Jaden. But there's a difference between my wants and his needs. And it's hard as a parent to differentiate and understand that. Because I am also going through a work in progress. Because I'm sure for my parents, they have wants that they would have want for me. But I also have needs that I needed to go through. I remember when the boys took their first step. So we have Jaden. Mommy, big boy. At that point, it was Ayana's first. Sorry, it was ours first. Sorry. It's only when I think about it, I was like, setting up myself. Yeah. Right. It was our first. It was our first. It was our first. It was our first. Right. And Jaden was interesting because Jaden, he held on to the chair. And it's true that he continued to walk after that. Right. So Jaden needed a support system and Jaden held on to the chair and he walked. I believe that's it. Very vaguely, I remember Jaden. Not because I don't love him, right, Palatine, but it was just so further back, right? With Jamie tried and tried and tried and tried. So Jamie would have stand up and he fall back down. He stand up and he fall back down. He stand up and he fall back down. And it's, but I should just always say this, it's awesome how God put into the design of babies that they always fall on the bottom, right? Because that is the cushion part and it meant for them to fall on. So he would fall on a lot of times and eventually he got it. Jensen was different. Jensen saw Jamie. He get up and he walked. I can't explain that one. He just get up and he walked. It was shocking. He saw it once, he get up and he just started to walk. And I'm like, okay, whatever happened there. But 3 different children, 3 different ways. Right? They looked at us for months. But they had to go through their own process in learning to walk. You know, they accomplished the tasks. And, you know, although a lot of people say they all walk like me, and I always say it, they all have their differences in the way they walk, right? They have their own style, they have their own way and their own being. It made me look at a different point also. Grace in action. This patience is rooted in love, not just by obligation. It's an active grace that supports growth. Now, I'm reading this based on Ephesians 4:2. We ain't reached our verses yet. I like to talk, people. I like to talk. Brother Ian coined it right. We ain't reached our verses yet, but I am just setting this up so we could see as we have this understanding now, we now move into our verse, right? Everybody cool with that? Two of us, please, I will call your name out. If I see you sleeping, I'm going to call your name out. Right, the coming back, we have the boys walking. That moment as a parent, when you see Kimora going and make she first step. Well, Sister Kida, I know it's very vivid for you, right? It's vivid for you. You're so proud. You're so happy. Micah make his first step. Cassidy made her first step. All it was way back then. Right? But the accomplishment, you know what the interesting thing is that we happy that they make that step, but when they look at us, they just begin to be happy too. Because I remember that they felt so accomplished because they see the parents. I don't know how we looked in their eyes, but and we making noise and they seen it and they start to be happy. So it makes me also think as a side topic that, children read our emotions, right? Don't believe that they can't see that. But here it is. It taught me that, yes, as a parent, I need to teach and guide them onto a good life. But I understand that they needed to make that first step. There is nothing I could have done in that point. They needed to make that first step. I cannot take it for them. It's not about accomplishing the task alone, but it's how we support them during that task. What do you mean, Kerwin? I could have been so fixated on the fact that I needed them to walk. I could have beaten them. Hey, walk now. Walk. I need to walk. Because I want you to walk so I can feel good. Hey, my son walking. Hey, yeah. Accomplish the task. It's an obligation. I get them to walk. Right? So in that, it's not about getting them to walk. It's about doing it how we want it. So sometimes we do and we allow them to do, or we push them to do things that we want to accomplish the tasks that we want. Here, this one. Development over time also implies that transformation is a process. And our role is to walk alongside others patiently. Big lesson for me there. I do have patience. Or it is be tested a lot. I believe the hospital is nearly empty. Patients, hospital. Tahir, it wasn't that bad, right? They had to fall. Even as parents, as we intervene, as in every process, they had to learn how to get up by themselves. We are not going to be there all the time. The same thing is still happening to us and them. So it's not because they could walk now, or even as parents, it's not because we are at this stage and there's an expectation for us to be sort of perfect. We still trying to get it right. The question is, how are we supported each other in that recovery process? When we fall, how are we supporting each other? So if you look at different relationships, you have a mom or parent and child, you have brother and sister, you have the church, brothers and sisters, your physical brothers and sisters, you have co-workers. How are we supporting people, especially within the church, in their process when they fall? Are we chastising them when they are down? You see, same thing I was telling you. How you could do that. How you could do that. I'm so angry with you. I could imagine if Christ was to tell us that. What are we reflecting? Because he was so patient with us to bring us to this point. You know how much time in my history I would have done wrong? I would have done from X to Y. Now, people doesn't think it, but hey, I would have done from X to Y, and Christ was so supportive in that process. Now it's my turn to support somebody in the process, but I can't be as patient as perfect perfection, perfect patience, which is Christ. And I'm supposed to be striving to that. I can't do it. And I am so hasty. So I want you to do it. You're doing it the wrong way. And I mash you down when you're down. Are we supporting? I know you know. Let's focus on learning about it. How can I help support you in this process? I am here and I'm ready for you. What are we trying to accomplish at the end of the day? Is it because sometimes as Christians, right? And I'm going to say this, going to seem harsh, I'm sorry. We know the road is straight and narrow, but sometimes, even as Christians, we now narrow that road more than the road is supposed to be narrowed. Because we see his word in our lives through our eyes at that point of our growth. Going to break that down. So, at 26 years, I saw Christianity one way. Actually, let me bring it more real. When I was in Shogunas, I saw Christianity one way. Being trust here, it opened up a whole different perspective. And if I was to live my life based on how I saw Christianity there, I would have been living a totally different life. But here's what I am now looking and guiding my family along that narrow road than his road. So even as we grow and we understand things better, to those around us, we need to communicate that so that we can, because walking this road to Christ, straight and narrow. Straight doesn't mean straight, it just mean, right? So we could go down to that. But walking the road, I don't need to walk in your steps. I don't need to follow block A, block B. My foot a little longer, I could jump to C and then I could go to D. But sometimes you want them to walk just like how we walked. But is that what Christ wants? They walk in the road. They are to him. They don't need to walk like how you walk. There's a road. I'm not saying that we're not walking on the road. There's a road. But as we see Christianity, sometimes we project it, and it could be a wrong projection. Right? Just saying. So as we grow together as a people, we need to understand that, and we need to share that and encourage those around us. So if I know something this way now, if I was to achieve the true understanding, because I engaged Brother Ronald and he showed me a different point of view, I need to share that now with who I would have shared before and say, hey, I was wrong. First point, humility. I was wrong. I now see it better. Right? So we're moving on. Now that we understand that, we need to guide, we need to be supportive, we need to demonstrate what Christ demonstrates in our life, and we need to do it in such a way where we love each other. Let's come back now to our situation. Let's bring some context before we go into the message. So here's the context. Paul. Who is the main characters? We have three characters. We have Paul, we have John Mark, and we have Barnabas. So everybody know Paul, right? Everybody know who Paul is. It's Paul. Paul, right? He's just a slight background. Birth name is Saul, Hebrew, Roman name Paul. He's born in Tarsus. Jew from the tribe of Benjamin, Roman citizen, educated under Gamaliel, famous rabbi. And he was the persecutor of the church, conversion onto Damascus Road, faced suspicion from the Christians in Jerusalem until Barnabas, remember this point, until Barnabas introduced him to the apostles. Who is Barnabas? Barnabas, originally named Joseph, nickname Barnabas, means, listen to this point again, son of encouragement. So what does Barnabas means? Son of encouragement. He is known for his generosity, encouragement, and bridge building among the believers. He was a leader in the Antioch church, right? He used to lift up people. He used to give. He used to support he used to help. That's Barnabas, right? Now we have John Mark. John Mark, that's John, his Hebrew name, Mark, his Roman name. His mother was Mary of Jerusalem, whose house hosted early church gatherings. That's in Acts 12, right? He was the cousin of Barnabas, missionary companion of Paul and Barnabas. Later, close associate to Peter. Remember this point. So he was the companion of Paul and Barnabas and close associate to Peter later on, and traditionally the author of the Gospel of Mark. He ministered in Alexandria, where he became the first bishop and was martyred around AD 68. So we're looking at Mark. From when Paul would have had this division, had this argument about him, to where he ended up. So we know the what. The what is they had a dispute. Mark, is a no good. Mark, I can't use you. Mark, we went on the mission with you, and then you left us. You departed. You're going your own way. I can't trust you. Here's the question. It happened. It is happening, and it will happen. In the church, we're going to have disputes. There is a room filled here with all different type of individuals, and we don't think alike. We should be, when it comes to his mission, one mind, but we will have arguments, right? Do it this way. No, do it this way. I rather it this way. They had a quarrel, and it was a bad one too. So I don't know how that quarrel was bad in that time. I don't know how that looked, but I know today, hey, that quarrel would be a bad one, right? And we know what a bad quarrel could look like. But what was the quarrel for? Was it for how Mark was dressed? Was it Mark hairstyle? Mark was wearing a Nike. What was it? But it was for doing God's work. So we have disputes in the church about everything. But they were quarreling for doing God's work. Hey, we're going out on work. And then sometimes we sit here and I don't like that plan that way. I like it on this side. And it's a big, and we quarrel for things that don't support God's will. So they had a problem. But how did they deal with it? Boy, you see, there's Paul here. See Mark? Ian, see Mark, useless. But you're not going to tell Mark, or you're not going to debate that directly. You're not going to tell him directly. But we're going to go behind each other's back and indirectly try to let everybody know that Mark useless. They handled it directly. They had a dispute, but it was done directly because here's what I would not know if that didn't happen. If Paul was thinking that way and they were on missions, you don't know what would have been happening inside. It could have been distracting them. So we never thought about that point. Yes, they had a blowout, but they handled it one time, then they move on. Instead of, we all trying to be one nice bunch, but inside my heart, I'm watching you. And I can't get to focus on the mission because every time I see Mark do something, look at him. Look at him. Wait, Mark, hold you. Wait, Mark. You walk into the back. Watch him, man. He might escape again. But instead now, this way, although it seemed divisive, it was handled in such a way where they could have focused on the mission. So, this argument allowed them to do God's will even faster. Because here's what. We had a crowd, we had a group, and we would have gone this way, but now we split up. And we get to cover more ground. Simply, we get to cover more ground. It also allowed them to develop differently because we are going out. Brother Siju like to talk. Brother Kerwin like to talk. Sister Rachel like to talk. But they do all the talking. And then Jaden don't say nothing in the back. And then Josiah don't say anything in the back. How are they going to develop? But now that we split, there's no Brother Suju. There's no Sister Rachel. There's no Brother Ronald. But now you have Josiah and Jaden. Now, I'm not equating Barnabas to that, right? But by the split happening, it caused them now to develop faster. And in terms of Mark here, because people, don't quote me on this, but it could have been that because you were in the company of Paul, Paul would have run the show. And Mark's developments could have been hindered. Right? These are all points we could pull from the verse. But by that split happening now, it's just Mark and Barnabas. And now he had to pull his weight, right? So where did this happen? Where did this argument happen? This argument happened in Antioch. Now, this is important because there was a church in Antioch and it happened around there. Why is this important? We will see later on, right? When did this happen? Now, this is what was interesting to me. The time of the disagreement and the time of the reconciliation was approximately 10 years. Because the disagreement happened in AD 49 to 50, Paul's first positive mention of Mark was in AD 60, 62, about 10 to 12 years, right? So imagine Mark during this period, knowing that an argument, now you have Mark and Barnabas, knowing that an argument happened. I would have just imagined in Mark's mind how during that 10-year period now, he could have focused on two things. Either A, see Paul, don't like him, need to get back in mind. Or here's the kicker. Here's the great kicker. I was talking to a sister and telling her this. The kicker is that as Mark continues to do God's will, in that process of development, He's also healing to be able to not let that affect him. How does that look? That looks like by sometimes we are going through situations in our lives. It could be all of us go through different things, right? Some wear it where everybody could see it and some hide it, right? But I'm here to tell you today that the best way is to power through your situation. Because some situations happen in our lives that pulls us away. I'm going through something and I can't deal with people, so I go back. It happens to me. It happens to me. It has sometimes Brother Kerwin can't face people. I need a refresh as can't face people. But what always happens is somebody might call, or there might be a situation that arises. And in trying to support in that situation, I am speaking to myself also to help me out of my situation. God has a way that he works that out so awesome that when situations arise, I'm going through it right now, but I have to tell you now, hey, it's going to be all right. And then now I'm talking to myself, but so sometimes I talking to you and I'm laughing, I'm smiling to myself, right? Because once I'm doing his will, that's important. And in doing that, it shapes and transforms me. So, when you get that urge to pull back, push forward, call somebody, hey, and hear this. Don't believe, because we always have this thing as Christians, I'm blessed and highly favored. Mess. We are human beings. We're going through it. So, I now started to do something. If I'm driving down the road, Getty, I say, all right, Sister Cecile run across from my call at one time. One time. And I realized that works. That works because 90% of the time that person needed that. And in that conversation also, because I am going through something, I help myself. Because why? It works best because we now have two people communicating. So where I couldn't see a situation to help me pull out, they might say something to trigger a response in me that helps both of us, or they help me in that response. So because now we have two Christians gather. We have two, and we are conversing, supporting each other, building each other up, and it works. You need to trust in that. We need to trust in that system. So hear this point. When we come back to Mark now, failure isn't final. Though he abandoned Paul, once God restored him to his usefulness. So, though he abandoned Paul, God restored him to his usefulness. How does this look? God is working out a plan. Sometimes we want God to work out the plan and we see it. God, now, you saying to do X, I think the plan should be to do Y. And you want to now tell God how to work out that plan. God is saying, he heard us. Yes, you fell. You fall long. Yeah, you messed up. You make a mistake. Yeah. But I still waiting. You fell again. But I still waiting. Now hear this. By that time, people who don't have perfect patience as God, here's their response. Hey, you messed up, boy. You shouldn't do that. But all God is saying is that I am waiting here still. Just get back up and start to walk to me. But here, sometimes we look in the church, we look in our families, and they just mash you down. But here, what he's saying, I'm waiting. I'm waiting here patiently. I am perfect patience. So why is we strive to be patient? He's the perfection of that strive. He's that perfect patient. You will not see that on earth. I could be patient with, but I have a limit, right? Failure is not your end. He's saying, come to me. I have given a support system around you when you fall. So like the babies. So you have the babies, you have their pampers on and they fall on the bottom. Oops. Right? But I've made them to fall on the bottom. They have a support system around them. What is the support system in the church around people who fall? How are we supporting them? What is your support system like? Is it like Christ? Or are you trying to support out of obligation? Ooh, big one, Kerwin. How does that look now? How does that look now? I am supporting out of obligation. What does that mean? Well, I have to support. But why? I'm a Christian. See that fall? It's going to make the church look bad. So, it will make the church look bad first. That's what we're studying. We're not studying about the soul. We're studying how the fall will make the church look. And risking the fact that we could lose the soul. So you'll ask yourself the question now, which one is more important? How we look, obligation, why you truly caring about that soul? Now, I'm going to say this. How do we see our brethren? Do we see them as them or us? Because if it's us, the same effort that Ayana will put to get Jamie to walk on our road is the same effort she should put for Micah. Same effort. Hear this. All that we reach. We nearly done. We're cutting it short. I've seen some, I'm going to call some names, you know. I'm going to call some names. All right. I've seen it up here. You see everything. Eh? Second chances matter. Barnabas, true to his name, son of encouragement, gave Mark another chance. Barnabas saw a great leader before Paul and before Mark. So Mark didn't even see that leader as yet, but Barnabas was seeing something. He was patient and he was encouraging, but how with love. You can believe that you are encouraging, but is it grounded in love? Or is it in obligation? I don't want to look bad. I don't want the church to look bad, as I said before. But God cares about souls. So there's a way in which we ought to do things. In the same way that Christ was patient with us when we was doing our mess. That same grace, that same patience, we have to bestow on the younger ones and even brethren. Right? If we are looking at souls, are we seeing it drifting? Are you seeing that soul drifting away? Based on how you see your support system of obligation. Nearly done, people, nearly done. Growth in faithfulness. He matured into a trusted leader and a gospel writer. Ecclesiastes 9:11, it says the race is, there's the point of the verse that we pull out. The race is not for the swift. The race is not for the swift, but for those who endure to the end. We know that. Everybody know that, right? That endurance is two things. Trusting that you are running or walking not out of your own strength, but his. I run any race, but there's going to be a point in time where I can't run no more. And I need to trust in the fact of somebody else's strength to motivate me to take that next step. And two, not giving up even if you're last, or you have fallen, or you're even walking. I'm slow, but I'm sure. I'm seeing the finishing line where my coach is calling me. So imagine a finishing line. And everybody run the racing. But I'm seeing my coach there with open arms, waiting to say, come, come, come. I fall. I mess up again. And he said, Dory, come. I still waiting. Come, come. So, you know, sometimes when it's hard, we going through it. The diseases, financial problems, we going through it. I just want to stop. I want to rest. I don't want to continue. I can't do this race no more. But it's not by my strength, it's by his strength. But I'm seeing God's hand saying, come, come, come. What we don't understand about this is this last point here. When it comes to that race, we are running a race that we have already won. And you know, the fact that we already won that race, we don't understand what it means, you know. Because when I say we already run the race, is that yes, we are running to Christ. But we are also running in Christ, to Christ. And as long as we are running in Christ, we already won the race. We need to understand that. So we need to understand that, yes, it's a lot, but I'm running a race I've already won. So look at this. Power of encouragement. Barnabas believed in him, and that second chances bore fruit. So hear this one. Sister Cecilia will love this one. What is the motive for our encouragement? To bear fruit. No matter what we're trying to do, some fruit had to be born. So as you encourage each other, you expect to see something, some change, some fruit, some attribute to be changed. That bearing fruit is just an attribute. So I lie plenty, I lie less. Right? I spoke to a lady selling plants. And I asked her, how your plants are so awesome. I mean, when you looked at the plants, you ever looked at plants and they look happy? I mean, I saw the lady, she took a cloth, and not just any cloth. She took those soft microfiber cloth, and she was wiping each leaf. And she was smiling about it. And I'm like, okay. So she said, son, no. It's not like that. These are not plants. I say, hey. My eyes do not deceive me. These are plants. She said, no. These are my babies. I say, okay, sorry. I get up every morning and I speak to them. I sit down, I have tea with them. I water them. I feed them. I change their pampers. I was like, okay. She fertilized her. I said, okay. And she said, here, what? I also have fruit trees. And when they bear those fruit, it's the best I have ever tasted. I say, whoa. That's one perspective. Then I look home. I feel sorry for our plants. They surviving out a bad mind. I'm not giving up. That's what they gain. We ain't getting no food. We hardly, when the rain falls, God provides that water for us. But it's random people kicking ball at me, killing my leaves. There's no conversation. Not the same results. The leaves, holes in them, not the same results. But it's the same with us. What is our approach to restoring people? What is our approach to encouraging them? How are we doing it or no? We have good intention or no? But is it working? Is it like what Christ did for us? So sometimes we forget how we were back in the day. Back in the day, sometimes we forget. And sometimes we forget on the fact that just before you left that party, he would have guided you. Just before you left that party, 4 people get killed. We forget sometimes. So we forgot that grace and that mercy that we, as we progress through life, that he was showing us with. And then because we know how it could be, and because we see an interpretation of Christianity one way, we try to smother. And we have an expectation which might be of a good intention, but is the process in which we do it. Now, this is a lesson for me because I'm very hard on Jaden, especially. So as I was doing this, I started to cry. Liming around Sister Keisha, Sister Liz, Sister Ayana, crying easier and easier and easier. I cry plenty. Cry plenty. Oh, yeah. Oh, Auntie Yvonne, yes. Sister Yvonne. I cried plenty. I cried plenty. But that restoration time took 10 to 15 years before Paul could trust him again. Hear this verse. Corinthians 13:4. Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself. It's not puffed up. A decade for Paul to see the usefulness of Mark. But for Mark also, he didn't give up. So it's a two-sided point. So for the person who had fallen, not to give up. He could have focused on how Paul sees it and he say, see this Christian thing, I gone. But guess what? Barnabas, son of encouragement. And guess what was so interesting in that is that because of that encouragement and because of how gentle Barnabas was with him, he was doing two things. He was doing it firstly unto God over time as he continues to grow, but he was also doing it because Barnabas would have stepped in. and encourage him. So now how this looks. You have Cassidy. And you have Keela. Or you have Cassidy and you have Sister Keisha. So in the early stages, she's doing it for like the mic permitter. The mic permitter wrap up. All right. So in the early stages, she's doing it for mommy. But there comes a point when she's so mature that she does it for God. And now she also even helps mommy in that process. So now strengthening each other and right. We have two people strengthening each other, and we have two Christians now working together to accomplish this purpose. Right? Last point as I wrap up, because I'm looking at the time now. I'm looking at the time. They were all working together. But the last point of the verse is, here it is, verse 40 says, but Paul chose Silas and departed, being commended by the brethren to the grace of God. This mission we are on is not an individual mission. It is individual, yes, but the mission is also communal. We all have to work together. What was so interesting in that church is that, imagine this argument happened and they didn't choose any sides. The church didn't split. They come because they were focused on the mission. So they went that way. They went that way. The mission continued and the mission was accomplished faster. What was also interesting is that the way they handled the conflict. Paul and Barnabas had the disagreement. The community didn't take sides. They affirmed both parties and the commitment to God. They showed their maturity in handling the disputes. The mission continues and the individuals were respected. And God's guidance is sought above humans' judgment. You had a community supporting both Paul and Barnabas. You had a community seeing here what? This is us going out there. So when they would have gone out, the church would have prayed. The church would have been able to provide for their needs. The church says, here this, you two are going out in two different ways, but we are all going out together because I'm going to be here praying for you every day as you are out there. That's why it's a community. And the last point, they trusted in God over human ability. Paul was awesome. Paul did great things. But it's because of God, Christ. It wasn't because of how Paul could have preached. It wasn't because of Barnabas could have preached. It was all Christ's mission at hand here. And they focused on that. What they also did was to put prayer in action. So it wasn't just they going out. By praying, they continually send the missionaries out. So when I pray now, my prayer, my blessings are trusting in God for you to have success. Because we are all part of this. And just to sum it up again for the ending, Ephesians 4:2, with all lowliness and gentleness, with long suffering, bearing with one another in love. We have to be with each other. We have to be that support system for each other. We are his people for his mission. And we have to remember that it's his mission. And although we go through our various trials, let's be supportive. Let's share those burdens with each other, because you don't know if an answer to your burden is sitting right next to you. Because he says, I will provide the support system. He provided Barnabas for Mark. But Mark had to trust in that support system also. Right? So people, as we close, let's pray. Before we have the invitation song,